What is up, everybody? We made it. We made it. We made it. It was a close one there. It was definitely a close one. Let me see what's up with the chat. I almost pushed this one out, but you know what? The show must go on. And here we are, man. I'm glad I didn't. So props to the server. I was trying out this future stuff, man. I swear to God, it seems cool. You know what? I'm not a scalper, that's for sure. And that is absolutely a scalper's like playground. And I was playing with this prop firm stuff. And I'm like, ooh, the drawdowns are very, very tight, which doesn't really fit my my trade style. So I'm like, not really. And it sucked because I was like so laser focused on like one or two trades that it's like, man, I totally forgot about everything else that was going on. So sorry guys for being late, but you know what? We made it. Here we are. So let's get into it. So I know we're a little bit late, so let me see if we can get this slightly faster today. So big week ahead for sure. So again, number one, if you're new here to the channel, appreciate you guys tuning in. What we do every Monday is really what I do every Monday is try to like take a step back. You know, I don't really like to trade Mondays in general anyways. Just things can go all over the place. Take a step back, look at what was important last week, how we should let that frame our decisions going forward this week, and what are the main catalysts that we have on deck right now that we need to be aware of to develop our kind of like trade plans for the week. So that said, let's get into it. I think it's the biggest headline for sure is this FOMC meeting, which we will get to. Oh, shoot. And you know what? I just realized I've missed one of these slides, so I'll have to go into the actual calendar here shortly. But so last week we got a bunch of data on the economic front. We got mostly like CPI, which is inflation, and then we got PPI. So the main thing here, core inflation really is still a little bit elevated, but the headline inflation, which is like everything all together, core strips out food and energy. But it still includes housing, and housing is honestly the biggest piece that's holding the inflation numbers up significantly. And so that's, I think if the housing market changes, you know, that's the question, right? I think there's really been this major question of 25 basis points or 50 basis points. And, you know, it's tough, right? There's two different schools of thoughts, right? Like, so school of thought one, 50 basis points mostly because of this headline inflation. As an aside, the last GDP read was about 3%. And if you understand like what some of the like different sectors, different ways to trade or position yourself from a portfolio management perspective, really it's like there's stagflation, there's reinflation, there's disinflation, and there's like Goldilocks. And so in the Goldilocks environment, everything basically goes up. And the definition of Goldilocks, really, it's 2% GDP and 2% inflation. And if you look at headline inflation, that's really, really, yeah. And we will look at this. The Fed Watch tool is leaning, I think it was near 50%. 59%. Yeah, 59%. 50 basis points expected for this week's like Fed meeting. So the question, I guess, is like, well, is that really that big of a deal? And that's a good question, right? So if it's 25 basis points, I think that's what the Fed has really prepared the market to accept is 25 basis points. I don't know that the Fed has really prepared the market for a 50 basis point cut. And there's some people out there that are saying, well, look, if we get a 50 basis point cut, then you really have to believe that something's wrong with the economy. And I was in that position for a while, but, you know, looking at this headline inflation, that's really, Shalom, what's up, May? That's really the question, right? Like if, you know, we're so far low on headline inflation, you know, well, the Fed needs to catch up, right? They need to catch up. But if they drop rates too fast, do you spur some kind of like, you know, retail exuberance and, you know, prices start going up? So inflation is all about like the velocity of money. So if there's more money readily available, then the question is, well, will inflation start going up if people start spending more? And I think that's really the question, right? Like, if we drop 50 basis points, that's the toughie is like the housing market, right? So right now we know that the supply in the housing market is pretty constrained. So if they drop rates and people are more inclined to sell because they can buy, do prices go down, or are there just more buyers that start to flood the market and nobody else is really selling yet because the rates are still higher than what they have, and then prices go up? That's kind of like where we are, right? So, but again, that's all that housing piece. So that's really where the question is, right? So it's mostly about the housing market that's going to move inflation from here to me. And again, I mean, the headline being coming in really, so the year over year headline number, consensus was 2.6. It came in at 2.5. Prior was 2.9. We've dropped off pretty much the highest monthly read that we had in a while. So quite frankly, I think that this stabilizes for a while around 2.5. The question then is, if the Fed starts to tinker with the rate story, does that start to move the needle for the headline inflation? Because they still do need to get this core inflation down. That's ideal, but we'll see. The funky one that came in right after was PPI. Actually came in higher than expected. So the prior month over month core PPI reading was a negative number. And then we come in last week and we get a positive 0.3 on a consensus of 0.2. You're 50% higher, like, oh crap. And we basically kind of chopped around and ended up, I think, more or less exactly where we landed, right? So that's kind of why. In terms of catalyst this week, so there's a little bit of catalyst watch I have at the bottom. So Apple pre-order expectations. If you're wondering why Apple was down in the pre or earlier today, let me check on Apple right now. It was down around like 215. Starting to kind of base out. They're not able to push it down much lower right now. I think there was like this expectation of that pre-orders would like to start flying out the window or out the door like right away when they became available Friday, and that's not what's happening. I was listening to CNBC this morning. They're talking about like, well, do you really look at it like a movie, right? Like, is it opening weekend or is this like a slow, gradual grind? And I'm definitely more in the camp of this is a longer play, but but for the Bears, hey, look, if you needed a headline to grab onto, there you have it, right? So that said, I mean, that's what's going on with Apple. We still have a couple catalysts on deck. I'm watching. Actually, if you have tickers that you want to look at later on, drop them in the chat now, and we'll go ahead and take a look at it. Watching Dell, watching a couple other things. OPEC cuts the crude demand forecast for 2024 and 2025 based on slowing demand. There's a couple catalysts this week. So JPM has this US All-Stars conference that's going on all week. So there's a couple people that might be talking during that one. Today, we got some releases on Microsoft's Copilot Wave 2, and I believe Satya is supposed to be talking like any minute. In about 30 minutes, I think Satya might have like an impromptu stream. So we'll see. Keep an eye out on Microsoft in the next 30 minutes. That's what's going to be coming from them. And that's about like the Wave 2 Copilot rollout. So tomorrow, CRM, we get Dreamforce. That's their biggest event. That's like a massive one. And then Wednesday, we have a CrowdStrike investor briefing. So a lot of stuff on deck from a catalyst perspective. Let me go ahead and open the calendar because that's the one I forgot to get into the nitty gritty on. So sorry about that, guys. We'll just take a look. So this week, let's see, recent. We want to go to this week. Today, really nothing. Retail sales came in tomorrow. Retail sales have been an interesting one. This is, again, that consumer demand. I think we're in a place, and here's as an aside on the, what situation we're in for the market. I think we're going from a disinflationary type environment where inflation's coming down, right? In going into that Goldilocks situation. And if you're not familiar, let me see if I can pull this up. Again, here you go. So disinflation, right? Equities do pretty good. Just as inside, this is treasuries do pretty good. We saw TLT go from like 85 to 100 something. Gold does okay. Commodities do pretty good. This is the one that everybody is worried about, the stagflation. But if we go to Goldilocks, this is where like, okay, you want to start getting out of the gold and commodity and treasury kind of positions. This is long-term bonds. US T-bills is short-term bonds. So you want to kind of like unwind some of these commodity and gold moves as we're hitting all-time highs anyways, and then go back into REITs, really, which has been the one sector that's been absolutely smashed, and stay long equity. So that's kind of like, I feel like we're leaving this deflation or disinflation and going into probably Goldilocks, and that is if really if we can kind of like stabilize the GDP and the inflation rate. So anyways, that's where we are, right? So that means I actually want to be long kind of like the consumer. So that's equities, things like that. I like Target where it's at, but retail sales is going to be one of those drivers that doesn't typically move the markets a whole lot, and it actually may start to. So keep an eye on that one tomorrow. Other than that, we have the housing index stuff that I think once the rates actually start to change, that's something we can start paying more attention to, like building permits, things like that. And I'm just looking tomorrow. Yeah, so tomorrow's the biggest day, or Wednesday. Sorry, this is like FOMC. If you noticed on Friday too, there were like the volume just kind of started to fall off, right? So volume really started to fall off on Friday. I think that's really just the market getting ready for this FOMC decision and announcement on Wednesday. So I'm not sure that we're going to see a whole lot of back and forth. I know the market looks really toppy in the pre-market today. I'm kind of in the camp where, look, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, really Wednesday, Thursday, we had moved within 2 sessions the length of an average week. And for me, whenever we move the length of an average week within a 48-hour period, that's kind of like a signal for the market to kind of like stall and breathe for a little bit. It can look like a little bit of mean reversion initially, but gets bought up pretty quickly and then just kind of like stagnates until we get to Wednesday, which is the day that I think that we're really going to start kicking off. So to that end, I don't think that we're going to really break down today. And if we do, I just feel like this week, Monday, could be a little bit of a mean reversion, and then tomorrow we'll probably rip it back up and then bring half of that back down on Wednesday until we have this actual FOMC decision. So that makes a lot of sense to me. We'll check in with Ms. Cleo later. I really haven't read what she says at all, but that's kind of where we are. So press conference starts at 11:30. Remember, if you're trading around FOMC, there's a couple different kind of waves of moves. So the first move is usually the fake move, usually, not always, but that's the pre-release. Before anything really starts, the scripts and transcripts and things get released to the public. Analysts get this and the bots get that, and they just kind of like make that first initial knee-jerk reaction before anything's actually happened. And then they read it, and then the press conference begins. You get another move, and then it's not till like the Q&A section is done that you really get this major move after the fact, right? And so during the speech, by the way, and we've seen this the last couple times. So during the speech, if you are trading, which we will be trading probably, I think it's the last 2, and you guys reminded maybe 3 FOMC conferences where we've had a pretty solid trend. Like we get that first release move, and then it gets reversed, and we have a trend throughout the entire speech, including through the Q&A sections. But the second that stream ends, I swear to God, the second that stream ends, the last few times, it's just completely reversed course and almost giving the whole thing up. So be very cautious. I only really remember this because I had that IWM call on, and then I had hedges on at the same time, and I removed my hedges like towards the end of the speech because I'm like, oh, this is good, we're golden. And then he stopped talking, and the whole thing reversed, and it just went down, 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 down after that. So be super cautious. If you have hedges on, that's fine. I would not take them off until like the full day is closed. So that's just my 2 cents on that one. It was kind of a unfortunate event for me, but it is what it is. But now right? And I think it's the last couple times that that's happened. So Thursday, so it's all about Wednesday, right? So Wednesday, FOMC. Thursday, we get jobless claims, which again, this weekly jobless claims number has actually been moving the market considerably. I'm not sure it will this week because it's been pretty static at like 230K, which is pretty good. And then it looks like I don't see anything. So short-term bonds, and then Friday, really nothing. So it looks like whatever happens on Wednesday after the speech, we'll probably get some follow through Thursday and Friday, because I don't see, aside from the jobless claims, I don't see anything in the way that's really going to change the markets, that could change the market's view after that type of a data point. So I think if you're looking for some kind of trend for the week, yeah, it's really Wednesday, post Wednesday. I don't expect too much ahead of that. I think chop is really in line, quite frankly. And then we get a bunch of speeches. Looks like next week, starting Friday. Yeah, after this FOMC, which is kind of like their debrief. So this looks like they're setting up some kind of messaging campaign. Remember, Powell has said multiple times it's a lot about what the market expectations are around rate cuts and things like that actually moves the market. And I think he's right on that. So anyways, that said, just these things in between Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think these are probably good news events for the market. So again, if we get some sell-offs, I think it's choppy until then. But that's what I have on deck. In terms of earnings, so we do have a couple earnings coming out. I haven't done this one in a little bit, or I haven't shown this, but I do track the Dow 30, the top 30 companies in the stock market. So far we've had, I believe we've had 5 miss. Let me see if I have that right. I believe we had 5 miss. Am I missing one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. McDonald's. Sorry, McDonald's is green. This should have been red. They did miss. Funny enough, they did get an upgrade today too. And they extended the $5 meal. So cool. Good for them. There were some headlines about is that going to cut into margins? If you don't know, McDonald's is very much a franchise model. So the actual product margins, doesn't really affect McDonald's, the corporation. But there's not, we're pretty much done, right? So it's funny, we've gone through all this. We're 27 deep so far, a couple more to go. And we're kind of landing somewhere in between this, like where we were about a year ago, which, we were peak earnings, but we'll see if this trend continues. As an aside, we have started to go down slightly. This was literally Q4 was absolutely the best earnings record that I've ever seen, like bar none. So it's hard to top that. So we'll see. So on the calendar itself, there's not a whole lot. General Mills, this is interesting. So we've had staples running quite a bit. I think it was like utilities was actually the best performing sector in the S&P so far this year, which is weird. And then you have staples actually carrying up the rear. So, if this is kind of like, so we have gold, we have staples, utilities. I think utilities is a bit tied to the, AI stuff, actually, like we're going to need a lot more power for that. But we'll see if General Mills can continue on and the rest of the staples stay strong. I think there's just some kind of cause for concern. Clearly, there's a lot of barbelling going on across the board. So a lot of staples have been moving, have been very solid. Colgate has been like on a tear. Like the weirdest thing, Procter Gamble, even like Altria, MO, like all these stocks are on absolute rippers right now. And that's the weird piece of really the market right now. So like XLP, is the staples sector. I'm just going to pull this over real quick. This is like my sector view. But yeah, staples as a whole, look at this. This is a weekly chart of staples. That's wild, right? And inside this, you know, CLG or CL, Colgate, Nasty, PG is Procter Gamble. Like these are breakouts. GIS, General Mills. This is another company that's been at $60 forever, is now 75. You know, MO Ultra. Like this is the stuff that you're not typically seeing, like big moves from 40 to 50 and change. Kind of pulling back. Philip Morris was another one. I don't remember it. PM. Yeah, this is like Zen. Like like these are breakout looking charts. So weird. If rates come down, I do think that there are some areas like this is the Home Depot chart. This is looking classic cup and handle, quite frankly. If rates do come down, these are the type of areas where I would really expect some explosion to happen. So home builders and, you know, your lenders, SoFi, this is a weekly chart. These are looking good. Upstart really toying with the very critical level. If this can push up higher, it's going to look like a crazy stock. Affirm, again, these are coming off some serious lows. So, and then some of your other stocks that we can take a look at. I know like a lot of our people were looking at Roblox. You know, this is stuff that was looking like, you know, they're constrained from a lending perspective. This is the Roblox chart, weekly chart, but this is looking more like that snowflake base. Hopefully it doesn't end up like snowflake, but you know, this is 3-year base. That's a long time to be under that price range. So if things like this finally catch a bid from, oh, look at Debbie. Did you see that first or did you ask before that? But yeah, this is actually looking pretty decent. What happened with Snowflake, and I would just caution this. So here's the Roblox weekly. What I'll do is let's just open a like side by side Roblox and Snowflake. So RBLX and then SNOW before Snowflake went. So this was Snowflake beforehand. And this is Roblox today. So the Roblox chart, super similar to what Snowflake looked like prior, right? And we could have done the same thing when Snowflake was looking like this. So it kind of went up a little bit, stutter step, and this ends up being, I believe, about, let's see what this extension is. Yeah, about a 50% extension from the last consolidation low, which means that this would look like from about here. Oops, wrong tool. Sorry. From about this double top, which is breaking out of right now. It's about 55, give or take. And there was this like old kind of order block that was challenged with here. Pull that across. It ran right into that. Maybe just up to the top of it. Roblox is a little different. So it's got a little bit more room to the 60s, maybe. But yeah, so this is what Roblox would honestly, this makes a lot of sense. You want to see it continue for sure. Obviously, your next spot is going to be that last high. Roblox, they have earnings on deck, so it might be an earnings move, but this is actually, there's a lot of time into earnings. I think a lot of people are watching this stock right now. It's been setting up for a little bit, like relatively strong in general, since it started its move, even during the weekdays. So like 55s really is what I'd be looking at on something like this, but big old volume shelf that is finally clearing here. It's possible that it comes down a little bit, you know, just to be fair, a couple, you know, sometimes when we get this kind of stuff, even if you get a little bit of a pull down and stutter step like this, that's going to be good. This type of pullback is going to come right up to the top of that prior. Oops. Let me take this yellow line. So it's going to be basically 45, just under 45. So secondary volume shelf here. As long as this defends and it's over 45 or 44, really, this looks decent for continuation. I know it's a long ways down, but well, it's only $3 down. This is more like equity stuff. I don't know that I chase it today. It's had a nice move today, but if you come back and you retest essentially this volume shelf anywhere in there and then start to reclaim it, that's going to look ideal. And it's just going to look like this. Other than that, as long as you're making higher lows and higher highs, you should ride that trend because that looks like a pretty solid breakout. I mean, it's pretty picture perfect in terms of technicals. So I don't see anything wrong with it right now. It's just more of like, well, do you chase it or do you continue on, averaging in? Of course. Nice eye though, Debbie, for catching that one. Yeah, it's a big breakout at the moment. So good call. Checking out Roblox. I don't even know is there anything happening with Roblox that's like making this move or no? No idea. But again, so General Mills might start kicking off some of the staples stuff. Darden Restaurants. Did you guys see the headline on what is it? Red Lobster coming out of bankruptcy? Crazy. So Red Lobster out of bankruptcy. You got Darden Restaurants, Cracker Barrel reporting before the open on Thursday. And then after the close, we do have FedEx. So FedEx moves quite a bit on earnings. It's actually finally coming out of its long-term downtrend. UPS, last I checked, has not. Sometimes UPS is like a pairs trade on FedEx sometimes, but right now I will say that they're a bit detached. And then we're going to get into Lennar, which is like the home builders and things like that. So interesting set of earnings, not a lot on deck, but there's definitely some stuff that we could read through. But anyways, hey guys, it's time for Miss Cleo. She's tapping me on the shoulder. I'm ready if you are, but let's take a look. All right. Actually, let me make sure this is the right one. This looks eerily familiar. No, this is it. So it's the two of whatever that is. Pentacles, coins. Today is the Magician, Six of Wands, Knight of Cups. So FOMC is Wednesday. I know this card. This card is not a fun card. This is like six of swords. Oh man. This one is the one where like you're running away and like you're covered in a blanket. You're having to be like, I don't know, carried out of the scene. So that's an interesting one to me. I don't know. Let's see what she has to say. I haven't read any of this, but looks like possibly Chop. All right. So theme card is the Two of Pentacles. Card usually brings balance and consolidation. All right. It does skew positively as a theme card. So theme card is positive, but negatively as a daily. Okay. So that's a bit of a tricky call. Yeah, for sure. OPEX weeks. Miss Cleo believes in OPEX weeks. I do not, but Chop, it's a triple witch week, by the way. I think we have triple witching this week. So Chop is not unexpected, but we could see ourselves in a position where all dips are supported despite a mix of up and down days. One thing that concerns me about this card is we drew the Four of Coin last week and 4 to 2 says reversal. So I enter this week with the hope of a positive finish, but being prepared for disappointment. I like that. Today is the Magician. We had a Chariot last Friday, which is Major Arcana, and now we drew yet another Major Arcana card. So there's no series to use for analysis, like ascending, descending series. I do see that it skews bearish historically. Are we bearish right now? I don't even know. No, we are not bearish. We are not breaking down at all. But it really exceeds expectation, 0.5%. We'd see a run, could run a bit, but unlikely to trend. Yeah, it's not a trend day. Trend is to the side, that's for sure. This guy loves to set traps and play games. She nailed that. So don't fall in love with any particular position here. I think rallies are sold, but I don't expect major. Yeah, right there. So far, she's nailed it today. Six of Wands, celebrating something new here. Oh, Okay, perhaps a bit of Fed speak or an economic data release, just retail sales, may lead to an early surge to spark call buying, only to reverse in the afternoon. So she's calling the pivot Tuesday, which ahead of FOMC is pretty typical. Reverse in the afternoon as our arrogance gets us knocked off the horse. This card does usually finish positive, so you can get away with testing a buy the dip strategy, but not until we get the first reversion. Okay. There will be some wild swings as typical with one, so expect your resolve to be tested. Great. Wednesday is the night. I think Wednesday is FOMC day, right? I believe so. Knight is the most romantic of the bunch, and he's here to help guide us out of a strong emotional state. All right, so sounding positive so far. Last Thursday was like 3 swords in the heart, now 6. Ouch. Oh, that's fair. He doesn't bring a lot of energy, but does help protect our downside. He's bullish historically for the Wednesday, but not by much. Meaning we don't get big rallies. We are more likely to finish around 0.5%. Also, so Miss Cleo is saying this is a nothing burger FOMC. Nothing burger FOMC. Look. Oh, is this true, May? Nice. Let me take a look at what's going on in the if that just happened and we're at pre-market highs, honestly, I would expect that we chop. Won't be as deep. Well, as deep as what I expected. So if they can put that, maybe take a look at this Fed Watch tool before the end of the day, as I know that is pretty live. We're still at about 59%. This is where we are. About 59% probability of 50 basis point cut for tomorrow, for this week, and 41 for 25. So we'll take a look at that before we cut the stream. Where was I? Sorry. You got me off track here. So also trend tends to continue prior day's action. So keep that in mind. I think this is kind of set up. 59. What? 59%. Overall, I think we'll see more chop than anything. So don't get too excited. This is the FOMC day. Pretty sure, right? Did I read that wrong? Wednesday is it Wednesday? Consumer sentiment. I'm looking at the wrong thing. This week. Yeah, Wednesday is FOMC. She's saying it's a nothing burger FOMC. And then it comes in Thursday, the move. We'll see. So Thursday is the 6 of swords. Yeah, this you're right. You can see the 3 of swords through the heart. That's like, she said it was mostly bullish, but like at the same time, let me see, what did I have? This was last week. Here, it was that 3 of swords card. This one, and then that was what, Wednesday or Thursday, and the Thursday setup said sword to the heart, so sets up for heartbreak rather than generates it. Follow yesterday, so a heartbreaker, but it was a heartbreaker like chopped up in short time frames. That's for sure. That's when the volume really started to fall off. So today or this week, they're interesting 6 continuation, positive direction. It says that it's time to patch our wounds and move on to better scenery. Yeah. So this is like cut bait, new trend. Usually means that the bad times are over. She's saying it's positive. She's saying positive. Quote the watcher. Yeah, and then Ava for sure. Thursday's jobless claims. So it's an interesting one. Positive direction. Patch our wounds and move on to better scenery. Or you can flip sides, who knows? But new trend day, basically. I find it interesting that we have 6, night 6. If the night takes us out of Tuesday's range, this card could bring us back. I do expect a trend day. So chase. Ooh. I don't know, chase momentum here, regardless of direction and big energy of the day. She's really calling for a big trend day Thursday. That's a big call out. We'll see if she's right? Friday is the 7 of Wands. This card is supposed to imply that we're confronted with surprise, selling out of nowhere. if Thursday was a big day, I wouldn't be surprised if Friday reverses some of that. Often in front in the form of a gap down. However, during the recent rally formations, it has served to catch bears by surprise instead. Most reliable move is positive trend. The second most probably flat. She doesn't know. Yeah, she doesn't know. So highest probability of trend, coin flip for flat, not likely negative. Who knows? If that means that even we gap down, it usually gets bought. Okay. So don't swing into Friday, but possibly buy the dip. Who knows? We get gap up, probably retest a bit, then keep running. So expect a surprise of some sort that sets the tone for the day. On a gap down, look to buy the dip. On a flat open, look for a chop. I'd be really cautious about listening to her direction. But we'll see. Right. You guys like this stuff. So it's cool to have another opinion, even if it's as wild as this is. It's crazy how spot on she is sometimes, though. Recap, looks like a tough week, but there's some continuation in place, several trend days to take advantage of. Still OPEX week, and I play lightly, if at all. So Thursday looks like the biggest trend day. Possibly Wednesday. But yeah, I think this sets up Monday, today, tomorrow, pretty choppy. Possibly Wednesday that gets kind of reverted, and then Thursday, Friday is the big moves for sure. So that's it from Miss Cleo. Let's take a look at some of this other stuff. Interesting. Yeah. Too funny, dude. Let's see what I did want to see. Let's see. Did this change at all? So this is the Fed Watch tool. You just refresh it. Oh, 61%. What was the quote? Won't that the cut will not be as deep. And then the market just totally inversed them. Okay. That's wild. See, this stuff changes live. So yeah. All right. 61%. That's insane. Let's take a look at this all the way out a little bit further. So we're at 5.25, 5.25, 5.50 now. Yeah, they're still pricing in a high probability of 150, 125 basis points over the next 4 meetings. So that's at least this is better. I'll say this is better. At least a quarter per meeting of the next 4 meetings, and then maybe 150 basis point one. I think that's pretty. I feel like that's pretty appropriate, to be honest. But yeah, Roblox still looking decent. Crazy. I know some of you guys said CELH Tesla. I saw Microsoft in there. Let's take a look at this. So CELH, I'd sold some puts. So I sold some $30 puts. I actually sold some $35 puts. Let me see what they're looking like. I know they were all pretty decent. Let me log in. The 30s are I took half the 30s down at about 50% profit. 35s look like they should be somewhere about break even. Just looking at it. No, 17% on the 35s, positive, 50% on the 30s. Yeah, I think this is chop zone, right? I want to be long the consumer in general, but this is pretty much a picture perfect kind of pullback into so what had turned into supply. So this is the big test, right? Is this zone going to act as supply? And if so, yeah, this is a buy the dip kind of situation. Somewhere in here, right? 33, anything under 33. But I'm not buying this anymore below 31.50. No way, no how. I don't think that this rockets out of, into outer space either. So that's why I'm selling puts. I'm not really buying calls at this time on this one. I want to see this act. I want to make sure it acts well for a little bit, because even this could do this. But that's not something I want to be long calls into, not just yet. So I'll give that one a little bit. Tesla, nice little pullback this morning. Let's see where she's at. She's chilling. She's chilling at this kind of pretty big level. So this 230 area is a big kind of area of congestion. Let me take this other NFP indicator off for a minute. We're testing that one out. But right in here, this is like a big kind of area. So if this does break out, just as an aside, right, we have 10-10 coming. This whole situation is going to look like a big old like flag if this happens. If not, oops, I don't see this breaking down just yet. Longer term, 1, 2, possibly a third attempt. I kind of like this, to be honest. I think this one, you give it a bit of a breather. Let's go ahead and pull some trend lines. So we know we have this recent one that's broken. I want to zoom out a little bit more. Take a look at the weekly. So that's broken. This here, I mean, that looks pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate this at all. So she can pull back a little bit. She can pull back really like all the way. I really like this area here, about 220s. I would not be selling anything. Yeah, this is around 220s. And quite frankly, I have 2 trades on it. One, I have a butterfly on that. So for Tesla right now, I will tell you guys that volatility is through the roof, right? It's built in. I was on one of Emit streams like 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, and it was mostly understated. That is not the case anymore. So we're at 84th percentile on Tesla options volatility. This is as high as it gets, right? This is basically an earnings priced in across the board. So it's very, very high, Ivy. I'm not buying like it's through. Let me see. It's priced in through January through March. Holy moly. It's not until like April of next year that it starts to come down a little bit. And it's really juiced up to November 15th, November monthlies. So if you're buying anything on Tesla ahead of November expiration, you want to be a spread trader right now, just because they are so fracking expensive. I'll tell you what. Yeah. The cheapest series ahead of that is going to be next week's the 27th, but everything else very expensive, highly elevated IV and vol, specifically 1017 or 1011, 1018, 1025, October, November 1st through November. Yeah, anything October 4th through November 15th. All of those series are extremely elevated. So I would avoid those, or if you're going to trade inside those, which I have one on inside of that, it's a butterfly, because those are so expensive compared to its own historical pricing of all that. It's wild. But I think this looks good. It looks like it could chop a little bit more. It could even pull back a little bit more. Again, we're looking at this 217 type level, and really this entire kind of order block here. But again, holding this weekly trend line, we can zoom into the daily. This looks decent. It doesn't have to explode today. What this looks like, even if it does pull a little bit back, as long as it's defending this like broader trend line, that is ideal. The thing that you want to be cautious about, just because it breaks a downtrend doesn't mean that it like explodes up. Sometimes they go sideways for a while. So that's why I'm very cautious about that volatility right now. Those options are extremely overpriced. And I do have like calendars and butterflies, all kinds of short volatility stuff on that. What is Debbie saying? Neo hurts for years is in the dumper, and I have no idea. Neo, depends on your cost basis. I bought Neo like 250 way back in the day and sold it. Like halfway through this run. There was something about like tariffs. Like if the tariff stuff goes down, I think this becomes like a presidential thing, political thing. It's weird. Like if there's tariffs, if there's not tariffs rather on Chinese EVs and things like that, you're probably fine. But I don't know. Something just happened. Oh, I guess stopped out of some. Otherwise, I'd be really cautious right in here. This is like a pretty heavy resistance area. Looks like it wants to, but it's not there yet. I don't know. Hertz, I can help you on that one. Hertz, Tesla screwed Hertz, right? What is this? Breaking U.S. senators have sent a letter to Powell. Yeah, there you go. That's the one for sure. Let me see. What else do we have? Microsoft. So Microsoft is super interesting. Today, I said 11 o'clock. It's about 11 o'clock now. Do we have anything happening on Microsoft? Is it moving? A little bounce, but with the rest of the market, not yet. Keep an eye out on that. So Copilot, I think, is a big deal. I firmly believe that the market is kind of overestimating what the Copilot penetration is or going to be, really. But, I don't think that the market's really grasping what the potential is for Copilot on the retail side. So Microsoft, if you just go to Microsoft.com, right, and you wanted to buy, I think I did this last time. We'll do it again. If you wanted to buy a computer like a Surface, you're buying it with a Copilot subscription, and you don't even really know it. Learn about Copilot in option Windows. Come on, guys. Compare. So these are coming, product details, with Copilot like in the price. Look at how hard it is to like figure out what the pricing is. Starting from help me choose. Don't take me to an AI thing right now. Oh my God. So anyways, 2-in-1 on Surface Pro plus Copilot, right? So Surface devices, these have Copilot subscriptions in them. And then it's really hard to find one that doesn't. Like, they're not really making it easy. But what if every laptop that's sold, whether it's Dell, HP, whatever, has a Copilot license on it with their Office 365? Like that's going to be massive for Microsoft. So I don't actually think that the market's pricing that in yet. I do think that the market's kind of like overpricing what the enterprise penetration is going to be. But that said, I mean, this is the range that Microsoft has been in for a while right here. So this 430 area, pretty key resistance, right? It's gotten as high as like 431 and change. But this area, look at how it's reacted here, all of this, and where we are. This is a big moment for Microsoft. I kind of have this feeling like it's actually going to start to break out. So if it can get over this 430, call it today's high, right? Today's high was 433.50. If you're seriously trading over that, you have a pretty heavy, at least near-term trader, right? You have a heavy volume shelf right in here that it should get sucked right into. That's 443. That's a good trade for sure from an options perspective. And that's over, let's call it 430. Let's call it this, right? 434.40. So over 434.40, closing above that, you're likely going to you're going like $10 higher pretty quickly, and likely to fill in this area, which may become almost like what this lower area is now, right? So right now, this is kind of like that chop zone that Microsoft is in. Ideally, if this becomes the next zone that it chops through, that's really good for the stock. It could extend even a little bit higher up to that 450s, but I mean, that's a big move for sure. And really, it's gonna look like this. If this looks kind of distributionary, rather, so like people are selling in this area and it fails, like if this is a big, what they would say, whatever. If it's a failed Head and Shoulders, that's really bullish. Quite frankly, like if this was to be a Head and Shoulders, even at this rate, the best area for the right shoulder to show up is being like 458. So this is a pretty solid move potential for Microsoft. That's like a multi-week swing. We got to see what happens on FOMC, but that could be a big trade kind of setting up for sure. Okay, so that was Justin's. Take a look at KB. So this one's going to be interesting. So I think this is rate story, right? So KB Home or KB Financial. KB Financial. Ooh, I don't know this one. I was thinking KB Homes. KBH is KB Homes. 3% dividend yield. Financials. 22.5 billion market cap. It's a little choppy. They don't trade this very much. Yeah, weekly. This one's already on its way. I'm not so sure like financials is where I want to be right now. That's the tough part, right? This is 22 billion. I don't know if this is Sharkstera. Is this gonna land in IWM for regional? I think maybe. Yeah, so I'm just gonna put this into look at so banking, credit card, life insurance, non-life insurance. Business services. Yeah, we could take a look at the rest of them that we're seeing too, by the way. I think I would have to put this somewhat in the lenders category, but it looks like there's a lot of insurance here too. Yeah, loans and mortgage loans. So this is going to be more like the regional banking sector, which by the way, KRE is looking really good today, right? Like KRE, this is weekly chart. This is just trending up. So it's the big banks that I'm not really interested in. Personally, I like these regionals right now. My NYCB is like the lowest of the lows, and she's looking good today. She hasn't been able to really get through this level, but a massive base is created. I mean, this is like the worst of the worst, quite frankly. If she turns around, this is a lot of CRE, commercial real estate. If that whole sector turns around, then these ones are going to get a massive boost. So if commercial real estate's not as bad as it is, some of the like regional banks that have a lot of that exposure are going to have a huge move turnaround. Boston Properties was one. If you go back to the very beginning of the year and you look at like my first one of the year top picks, VXP was one of them. And this is based on, hey, look, COVID had taken this commercial real estate completely down. Boston Properties, this is a massive turnaround on the chart. I mean, massive. Tough one to hold through. Let me tell you, $70 trying to get through, couldn't, but higher low, and higher high, higher low, definitely higher high now. So next higher low, if you see one around 70, that's ideal. But this looks like it's on its way for breakout time, quite frankly. That's Boston Properties, and there's a lot of room to the upside here, like a lot. So I like some of those. I just think it's just way down there. Okay, so TGD, we'll take a look at Meta real quick. I do like Meta in general. This is massive flag setup. I still think that a lot of this stuff is going to be like post FOMC. What I think is happening right now is that there's no this is like there's no such thing as a triple top. I think Meta is pretty steady, but I think the next move post FOMC, this looks like it's going to break out. If it doesn't, you're going to know real soon, and it cannot breach this 500 low again, right? So 499 and change right here. This was like that last pickup spot, just honestly, just a couple days ago. If they say, hey, there's no such thing as a triple top, what's going to happen is that we'll come up here, right? We'll come up and we will probably make a triple top somewhere along this line. And then it might start to pull back. And then if after the third attempt, it starts to go again, it's whatever that fourth attempt is, that's the one that usually breaks out. So maybe not this one right now, maybe that pulls back a little bit, but when it's coming down and you see it start to reverse, if it's anywhere around this 500 level, that's probably likely the one that's going to go. And then this one is the one that will end up being the big mover. So maybe not this one, but the next attempt. Hopefully that makes sense. But assume it fails somewhere just around 540. So that's a good like $10 from here. Pulls back and then somewhere around 500. If it bounces, that's a spot where I would be like, okay, reload the boat, right? Anywhere honestly doesn't need to be as deep as 500. Probably here, 515s, quite frankly. Something like this, blip, big dumper. And then you around 515, you see a higher low. I think that's the one. All right, Kim, SMCI. I feel like a lot of these semis were getting shellacked this morning. How are they doing now? I think she's stuck. I think it's stuck. I don't want to. This is a Friday mover for me. Had a nice little pop just the other day, but that's last Friday. Right into this 482 is still going to be this or 480s massive overhead resistance. Even on this near dated term, you have to take this wick right here, 475. So between 475 and 480s here is overhead supply. Right now, if you can get a base, and this isn't going to be a fast mover, I don't think right now. If you get some kind of bouncing formation and then reclaim over 450, that's going to be ideal. So I'd say, it could come down as low as 430s and still hold a general uptrend. Oh, look at that. Did it wick down to 430 this morning? It did. 430. That's this double bottom essentially. Again, if it doesn't have to break out, but that is a decent looking defense on SMCI right around 430. This probably goes a little bit higher. I'd say 466 and then into this zone, but I'd still be careful. As long as you're holding over 450 though, this does not look horrible. Micron was down in the pre too. Let's see. Do these recover? Yeah, Micron's recovering. So 86. Ooh. Is this the opportunity? Seriously considering. This definitely looks like an opportunity. So what's true is that if this can't break down, it has to go higher to get more sellers at minimum. So I like this today. I'm going to take this order block here, 87.19. I'd really like to see it close over 87.19, but this looks really constructive. Again, they couldn't even from here. So they want to get it down lower. It's got to go higher to try and take another shot. If this shot can't push it down, it's got to go back up. And honestly, it's got to go back up above here to collect more sellers. The problem I have with Micron, I think they got to upgrade to about $100 today, which is somewhere in this order block. That was probably one of the worst lines from a CEO on their last earnings call. Hey, we're sold out through 2025. So, stocks are forward-looking vehicles. If the investors don't have anything to look forward to, that's not looking good. I think you take this shot today, and intraday you want to use this opening range low, which is this wick way down here, right here. That's 85.94. So that's what we call an orb, like opening range. So as long as you're defending that, which looks like you are right now, honestly, I would prefer this 86, but let's say this 86-ish level. If it's not closing below that, it's not going down. Also true. And then today's opening range high is 87.50. So in this box, this is your opening range. Essentially it's that first impulse down before it reverses. So opening trade today was right around 87, impulse to 87.50, and then impulse down to the 85.60, 85.90 something. So this becomes your opening range for the day. If it's trending above or below that, that's kind of like you have a direction, right? So right now it's firmly in the middle, but it is defending that opening range low. So either it's above. That's why I said I'd like to see it over 87. If it's closing over 87 and change. This is likely going higher. But I still don't think this is like, look, if it's not below 86, it's not going lower. This is one where it's like almost like sell puts first. Maybe throw on a condor, some really wide condor. This looks pretty constructive though. I do like this chart. I'm going to put that on watch, and I'll probably put an alert on here. Potentially open a swing. Long. Level up. Good call out. Danielle, how do I feel? Oh, wait, check out First Solar. So Enphase, let me take a look at TAN. That was the ETF. So Enphase and all of them, they were looking good. FSLR, we have one of our traders long, I believe FSLR. This is, again, political. So big base over that prior kind of top here. So this does not look horrible. Today would lock a higher low, but it's a double top. See what I'm saying here? So this is that's a double top. So it looks constructive, but it's one where that might get you. That might get you. Let me look at Duke, see what he was doing on FSLR. Oh, he's already a double. Huh. So we had 240 calls. Earnings on Tuesday, the 29th. Yeah. I mean, if you see it closing towards the highs and breaking that level, I think you could go for it. But this looks a bit stuck right now. Choppy. I would wait. See if this clears a little bit more, but it looks decent. How do I feel about Broadcom? I don't know. AVGO. Broadcom's never really been I'm not a fan of it, but I think we had like a gap around 170. It was something like that. Let's see. Oh, that's kind of filled. So there was this session gap. So this is a session gap. I think that's your supply right now, as in like resistance. So until you're closing over that, I think it's going to have a hard time. It can still base out, right? Like, so this choppy in this area. So if this is that last base from here, it's essentially inside of this box, right? So if I take this down. So if this was that session gap, and then this was that where it was chopping before down to 156-ish. So now it's stuck in this range. Unless there's a catalyst that pulls it out, I don't know. I don't really know that it's out of that range. Equal highs, I think let it breathe. Personally, there's this little peak over here, 170, right? So I don't know. This looks sideways to me. I'm not really, nothing I'm super interested in, but if it goes, you'll know, and it's cracking through that 170 level, and it's on and cracking if it's going over that. But not till then. We just went over NYCB. I do like that. Yeah, KB Homes earnings next week. Yeah, that's a definite one. I think this is the rate stuff, right? The rate stuff's going to move IWM. It's going to move KRE, probably XBI, all the home builders, things like that. Yeah. May's already in Micron. That one looked good. So no, I feel like it might be both, right? I feel like Micron is an option setup, right? This is selling me options is okay. Because what I'm looking at here is that just from a chart perspective, I can just look at this and be like, okay, this is 13 days. Micron has been more or less sideways. If I really took this and said from this area to here, the options chain might be looking at Micron and say like, it's been the same price for 45 days. That's how I read that chart. Let me take a look at the option chain itself right now. Ooh, options IV or IV percentile is really high on Micron too. What the hell? Do they have earnings coming up? No, September 25th. September 25th, you guys, they have earnings coming. So how do I do this? So Micron, that means I don't want to be involved with the September 27th expiration. So not next week. That's why IV is so high after September 27th. But yeah, with earnings coming around the corner next week, this sets up for a bounce. So if it's equity, if you like Micron, it's like this. You buy like a quarter position here, right? And then you finish your position in 2 or 3 more tranches after earnings if you still like it. If you still like it after earnings. And like with options, this is like a weekly expiration, probably at 87 is at the money. If I look at this, what's this? This yellow line is 90s. That seems so high, but it's a $90 call. I'll just tell you what it is. It's 6,000 volume on this Friday's $90 calls. They're sitting at about $90 right now, give or take, against 9,000 open interest. Here's what we do. I'm telling you guys now, it's 6,000 volume on this Friday's $90 calls. There's 9,000 open interest. So tomorrow, if there's like 15,000 open interest on Micron 90s, then they kept them. They're expensive. So I do see, it looks like a lot of 90 and 95s going out. Let me go ahead and consolidate this. I'll take a look and tell you what the largest single trader order is. Looks like the largest single trader order is puts. Weird. November 65 puts. But it looks like they sold those, quite frankly. So it looks like people are selling some puts. I don't know why you'd sell that put anyways. And yeah, October, September look like YOLO orders, about 500 lots for 110 and 115 calls for September and October expirations. I mean, that's not crazy. Did I say September? Oh, no. September 20th. That is crazy. What are they doing? Is that this year? Sorry, I'm looking at the chain. September 20. Oh. September 27th. Yeah, I don't think they still have that. They've got like 110 calls. That's crazy. The biggest, most active contract for September 27th expiration is the 100 strike calls. This looks like a 90 call for me, to be completely fair. I think this is active. I think that's probably going to happen. Zillow? Yeah, interesting. PayPal Chewy. MSCI J Roy. May. Yeah. I mean, so J Roy's in the server. Oh, I'm going to skip those. We can go over those in the server. Google, let's take a look. So Google's an interesting one, and then we'll call it. We took this long here on Google, not until it was crossing back over that 150 level from that all-time high. This is this prior all-time high area. Here. I don't know what this is, sorry. Very old lines. And it had wicked below. Now it's bouncing back above. I think I would take this area here. And I like that 153.70s. Yeah, see, so like 2 little volume shells. If it can get over, I think it's going to struggle right now. So it's a big move here off that low. If it pulls back a little bit, I'd be looking somewhere in that 155 range for it to potentially hold and base out. I just don't know that this breaks out. But if it does, look, it's over. It's a breakout if it's over that 160. But between 158 or so and 160. I'm happy to kind of like let it go without me from here to there, just because it's too dangerous to me in this area. Like it could fail. Like if there was bears sitting out there, they're sitting here waiting right now on Google. So that's why I'd just be a little cautious. I'd wait for it to be totally through that and then take it on this move in there. Sorry. Where am I looking to take profit on NYC? Honestly, I didn't have any plans. Like 16. If I sell it, if this goes, like it would be like maybe 14. But honestly, it would be in this area here, the 16s, somewhere in here. But even then, I would just kind of like let it chill. This could be if this reverses, this would be like a trade of the year, right? And if it continues on, it could be like generational buy. So like, yeah. I mean, that hopefully that helps. I don't know. But it would be 16 and then 23 that I'd be looking to trim in these areas. Cause yeah, it's that like destroyed right now. It would be a massive, yeah. All right. At 50% fib, well, from where? From here? Or you're probably doing it correctly and just doing it from the last breakdown. Yeah. Well, 55 would be nice from that one. Yeah, from this one, from this high, it's a lot higher. Yeah. Okay. So you're from the actual breakdown point. Yeah, it's about 1850. Yeah. Which by the way, so like there's this little wick right here. So I would undercut that 1850 or 1820. I would undercut that and I would hit that 1740. Really. Yeah. That's what I say. Because they ask, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not really thinking about it right now because it is longer term. But yeah, this Micron with the catalyst on deck. Oh, there she goes. You're welcome. Anyways, all right, guys, that's it from me. I think that's good. I like that Micron setup, at least from a near-term weekly one. So yeah, this looks decent for at least a pre-earnings bounce. All right, guys, I'm gonna call it. I'll check you on the next one, and I will see you tomorrow. If you want to hop into a Mint stream, I believe I'm gonna be over there mañana. But that's it for now. Talk to ya. Peace.